Hey, this thing has been there since the dawn of JavaScript. Brendan Ike actually wrote an email back when he was still doing Netscape and creating things like undefined for JavaScript. This one, if you remember, there used to be this thing called bookmark clips where you can actually write little snippets like this. Anyway, this is a very crude way of you looking at a web page and actually adding your own script that isn't part of the payload of the page itself. Now, we've evolved since then, and we can actually write scripts that are a lot more manageable than just JavaScript that you have to stick into one line. You have this thing called Userscript managers. The most famous of the ones is probably GreaseMonkey, which lets you install that as an extension to your browser, and then it lets you run local files and do a whole bunch of other things that now let you interact with the page in ways that the original people who put out that page didn't intend to. Now, why would you want to do this? There's a whole bunch of reasons, but I'm just going to bring up. I have this thing called TemperMonkey on my, which is one of the derivatives of GreaseMonkey. I'm using that for Chrome. I just want to run through the interface just to give you an idea of what these things look like. But so the extension comes with a little manager that can manage my scripts for me. So it kind of looks like this. Regular JavaScript, there's something that immediately invokes the JavaScript that you want to write. There's a bunch of annotations over there. I just got this machine, I'm still getting used to it. So there's a bunch of annotations that let you drive things that you want to do. Now, the JavaScript example we saw before was purely within the sandbox. You can only do things that would let you directly interact with the DOM in ways that you could. Now, being an extension, you have a lot more power. So there are other things you can do, like I can trigger when I want to run it. At this time, I can have it run that script after the document loads. I can do a bunch of other things. I can have it match certain URLs so that it's only when I browse to that site that this script that I write actually gets activated. I'm also going to bring up some documentation for this. So this is documentation for TemperMonkey, and there's a whole lot of things that you can do that's outside of just a JavaScript thing. So like the name, for instance, is the one that lets you change the name of the script. There's a bunch of other things over here. I'm just going to pick a few of these over here, and it lets you do decoding. I can load local resources like my own JavaScript, my own style sheets and things like that, which now run within the context of the page that you have loaded. You also have to specifically grant special access to certain things so that people don't just run amok. Now some of the other ones on the API, so GM, as you can see, that's from the GreaseMonkey days. But there's things you can do. You can actually inject styles in there. You can do things like get resource text, get resource URL, lets you load external context. I can register many commands, which lets me add things onto the GreaseMonkey extension itself. I can open in another tab. I can run AJAX calls, download stuff, and switch between tabs and a bunch of things like this. Now, let me see if I can bring up a few sites that show some examples of what these things are and what they look like. So Greasy Fork is one of the most well-known collection of these user scripts that's out there. And this has been there for a long time. There's a ton of scripts out there. A lot of it is crap. But it gives an idea. Well, and that's true because people put stuff in there. But it gives an idea of the kind of things that people do with these things. Let's see if I can pull a few scripts out there. Anyway, like I said, there's a whole bunch of crap stuff in there. But the interesting thing is, if you have time to kill, just go ahead and take a look at these things, because the creativity of people and the kind of things that you try to do with this will definitely spark some ideas for you. Which leads me to the main part of my presentation, the reason why I actually went down this path. Now, I've been trying to get away from code for a long time, try to get more into design. And I'm trying to see how little JavaScript I can come with in this talk before the pitchforks come out. So, as part of this, one of the things I do is I build a lot of prototypes for testing. I work for American Express. We've got this whole internal software that we keep trying to add new features to. And in order to be able to test some of these new features, I can't fire up a prototype that just stands alone, because a lot of the software is workflow based, and so there has to be the existing production system that users have to do a bunch of things before they come to this new feature that I'm building. And that's very difficult for me to realistically provide a testing environment. So one of the things I've done is in production, I'll hit the production system and I added a little script to the production system that now lets me add the new feature, so that when I bring in users into my testing lab, they're very familiar with what the existing structure is. They can go ahead and work with that, and then we see, all right, here's a new feature that we're trying to test out, and you guys just test it out. And it makes for a very, very realistic and a very, very valuable user testing session. They have no idea that this is a mock-up, this is somebody pulling the strings behind the scenes. It works so well that after that we really have trouble trying to tell them, you guys already built this, why are you asking for more time? And so we've got that kind of issue going on there too. So. But what I want to do is show you how something as silly as being able to write scripts to modify a web page. Most people will do things like, you go to Spotify or some site that you love to use all the time, but you absolutely hate something that they do. And you want to go there, you want to change something. You can fire up a quick script that gets it going, and then it does something very useful, things like that. What I'm going to do right now is walk through. I can't bring up the actual piece of software that I worked on, but what I'm going to do is make up an example here to kind of show you what I'm talking about. So I'm just going to go to GitHub, and I was playing around a couple of pages over there. So this is one of the sites that I hacked a little bit just for the purpose of this presentation. Everybody knows and loves GitHub. On the Insights in your contributors list, you've got this little listing where it shows you the contributors and the frequency of their commits and additions and the number of additions and deletions and things like that they've done. So imagine, if you would, that I'm trying to test out a new feature that I want to add to this page, where one of the business requirements was we want to be able to compare the relative contribution of the additions and deletions of all these users. It's kind of hard to see the way it is right now. So, if I was presenting this as a test, I would set this up on the user testing lab. Users would come to the screen, whatever workflow they had. Now, just for the purpose of this example, I am manually triggering it, but I can actually trigger the script that I want to modify this, with different triggers, document load or document end or whatever. In this case, I added this as a as a manually triggered option. So when I fire this one up, what it's going to do is it's going to parse a page, pull out all the users, find the number of additions, deletions, and graph that in a different way which the requirements are asked for. And here, it doesn't look very well, but this is kind of a violent chart that kind of shows me the relative amounts of deletions and additions and ranks your users too. So again, a very trivial, a very naive example. But what this has done is, it's a fully running production system that I can make look realistic, which helps me increase the validity of the test that I'm running. I'm just going to pull up a little bit of code behind this. So what this one is, I'm just going to fire up. The extension comes with the dashboard that lets me manage these things, and this is the one that I'm playing around with right now. That one's the one that's enabled. I'm going to see if I can edit it so just you can see it. Now, I'm just going to go over a couple of things over here that makes it interesting.
Refresh it, refresh it, it's the last day. Stupid Mac browser. No, it's magic, there is no code.
Okay, so what's going on over here, I'm just going to point out a few of those annotations. Now I can actually write my whole extension code, my user script right in there. I kind of don't like to do that because I don't like the editor that's being provided. And I also have to put some of this stuff in source code, so I have to link that to external files. So what I've done over here is, just going to walk through a few things. This match is what triggers the script to be activated at whatever URL I want to. I've done a very rudimentary match over here, but you can do complex includes and excludes with wildcards and things like that if you want to. The required piece is where I'm actually loading up a local file, which is the one that's running the code that changed the GitHub page that you saw. There's another resource that I'm loading up. This is a HTML file that's acting as a template of the table that I'm sticking in there. Yes.
Does the like the require resource or the require statement that you have there, where you're bringing in your script, does it have to be a local file protocol?
No, it doesn't have to be a local file. That's the thing. You can actually load it in from different places. And hold on that thought. I'll bring that up again in a little bit. But yes, and so that's the beauty of this. I can host this anywhere else. I can put this. Actually, I can pull in from Pastebin if I wanted to, and run it in here. Which again, on the surface, it looks like a very trivial hack. But if you think about it, and it's tooling to me. It's simple enough that you can string it along to do higher things, and that to me is the beauty of something, working with something like this. And I can also load up. I'm loading up a local CSS file. Now I did have to specifically grant certain permissions, like adding style. That's a permission that I had to do. Getting resource. That's another permission that I had specifically granted the script. Now since I'm pulling this from a separate file, what I'm going to do is bring up that file. And this again, a lot of this is just contrived script. What I want to show you is again, that's an immediately invoked thing that just runs the whole thing. I use that to trigger my name, which in turn I'm using the register command. This particular command is what shows up on my right there. Now again, if I'm in production and I'm actually testing this, I wouldn't do this. This is me manually doing it. I would actually have it trigger when the page automatically loads. So it's seamless to the user that I'm testing. They think it's the whole production site has changed. And after this, it's just silly JavaScript going on over here. I'm just calling
It's JavaScript.
all right. It is JavaScript. Silly for me. I'm the silly one.
You couldn't escape JavaScript, despite how much you wanted to.
But you did get 15 minutes in. Well done. Well done.
Mr. Timekeeper. Anyway, I'll be done really quickly. But so as you can see, from here, it's just straight up JavaScript. Nothing fancy. All I'm doing is I'm just scraping the page, pulling a bunch of stuff.
To the page. You can read through the HTML. You can parse it.
I can do that, right. Now, this is a simple case, but here's what's really cool about this. In my production system, when the backend guys open up a new API and a new REST point, in production, and if you guys know, you can't always sync up your build so that you can use the latest and the greatest. But when they do that, I can now call from within my page. Remember, any call I'm making from there is within the context of that page. So security, authentication, permissions, and everything is just.
You have access to cookies and all
everything.
that
I
stuff.
have access to all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so that way I'm able to
It's
decorate.
pretty ingenious.
So you would call that word augmented, something we need to come up with a word. But what I'm really doing is decorating the existing production site
Right.
without actually affecting production, but making it look to the users like they actually have a brand new version of the site.
So does it give you any hooks to like intercept AJAX requests or anything like that?
I mean, once you have the page.
Well, I mean, you could make another one, but you'd kind of want to, like, instead of having to rip through the DOM and.
I actually could, and
and
that's the thing.
Yeah.
Now, if that was something you could have done on the page itself, if you had written the page, the original page, you can do it right here. And so that's the beauty of this whole thing. In this case, I was ripping through the page, but what I would have done, what I did in my production system, I'm actually making a call back to the REST server. The REST server doesn't know things. Production is making a call from whatever site that had been built and deployed. But let me do something like that.
So if I'm on a public site, I am on GitHub, and I say I want my tamper monkey script to say when I go to GitHub, /Microsoft, it actually wipes that out, uses the GitHub API and fetches, GitHub, some other repository or some other account and shows me that information. Like I could do that in the code, no problem.
Yeah,
That'd be easy enough.
Yeah, if that was something that you could have done if you had written that page, it would possibly do that. So, yes.
All right, so I actually have a very selfish, relevant example. So I have a website that I built for a client that I want to show to other potential clients, but I have to sanitize to remove names, logos, colors. Instead of having to copy the whole system out and create a whole muted system, I could actually use this to intercept and change it. So I didn't have to, every time we had to do a new release, I had to go create a new copy. I could actually use this to bastardize the site that it is, and then basically, before it loads, just change all this instead.
It's funny that you mentioned that because on my production side, sometimes we have real customer credentials. And if I'm testing on that, I do need to wipe out, I need to fuzzify credit card numbers and other PII data. And we have another script that does the
You
exact
don't
same
say.
thing. But
Except
anyway,
the URL is still going to be the real URL.
the URL is still going to be the page doesn't know. As far as the page is concerned, it still thinks it's there. The browser thinks it's still there.
Yeah, but you can fake that with a hosts file.
Hold on, I gotta rephrase my question. I can have a script that says I'm on my machine, I got the script running, I go to GitHub, I can make authenticated calls as that user that I'm logged in as to the GitHub API. I can make the clone URL
Right.
button become the
Yeah,
delete button
no,
without telling
that's because my
myself.
local script right now is injected onto the page. It's the page itself, and that's what. Even though it's a local script, that's what the extension does for me. So yes.
Has anyone ever built Chrome extensions?
Yeah.
That would make a great presentation.
We had one.
Yes, we did. Just to refresh everybody's mind who's like, oh, I don't know how this works. Yes,
So and
it's brilliant.
So Joe, you had a question about
I guess that's the thing I'm wondering is the
Where you
whole
get resources
authenticated thing, and that coupled with the fact that my required resource could be external, it raises a lot of interesting scenarios.
Well,
I could shave off
yeah,
half
but
a fraction of a penny of every.
No, wait a second, but see, you forgot that you need to install the extension first. Without the
Right,
extension,
yes, that's
Right,
true.
but you
the
don't need
security
an
is not
extension,
breached.
also add
And
killer.
actually, that's an interesting point that you're making, because I think one of the newer Chrome builds, one of the proposals is to not allow extensions to remotely load scripts, which the Tamper Monkey guy is.
The ad killer.
The ad killer,
Yeah.
things like that. So they went, what Google wants to do is to be able to totally inspect all the code of extensions, not let you load out stuff remotely. And there's a bunch of conversations going back and forth where they're asking, can you have a special flag in Chrome, because this kind of functionality we're talking about is really, really useful. And so we'll see where that goes. But anyway, there you have it. Another tool in your toolkit. It opens up the options for the solutions that you have on hand now. And again, with great responsibility and great power, you can you can find a whole bunch of script kiddie stuff out there that lets you, fish and hack and do all that stuff, just because it's so easy to do something like this. And so there's actually even a whole pen testing suite that's kind of built on stuff like this, where you think about it, a lot of browser-based pen testing is from the browser end.
Right.
Instead of loading up Kali and everything, you might as well have an extension that will do a bunch of these things for you. So, anyway, thank you very much.
So basically, imagine that